Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the Dream Labs, Dr. Contrast Live. I hope everybody's doing well. And boy, I tell you what, hey, Chip, it's great to have you back on board. Saw your name come up on the board there and missed you for a while there. I know you've been very busy, but thank you so much for joining me today, Chip. And if you've been following along in the last couple of sessions, we've been doing more of a product design kind of a deal. We did a Porsche, then we did a couple of aircraft pieces and some athletic shoes in the last go around last week. And I thought, just an interesting, as stated in my last stream, I think it's really interesting for me to really change the venue up quite a bit and not get so caught up in some of the mechanical things or some of the elements that we're dealing with from a design or conceptual sketch processing work. So that today I just kind of give you, hey, Demetrius, how are you? It's good to have you on board, Demetrius. Very cool. So I thought it'd be kind of nice today to walk you through some landscape architectural design concept work I've been working with over the past 2 or 3 years. This is all finished work, in case in point. Curling is, staying in a meeting. Oh no, just don't get in trouble, Chip. But again, thank you so much for joining me. And again, Demetrius, always good to see you, and I hope all is well with you. But I did go back to the subject matter here. I think landscape architecture is one of those architectural pieces or processes that really intrigue me, because you're not dealing with mechanical things. You're dealing with a lot of different textures and different subtleties and different hardscapes, softscapes, and environmental pieces. And it's a very, very demanding, I think, discipline. And one of the things I love to do. And but I thought, maybe just changing again venues from last week, kind of just turn it inside out a little bit and just change the sequence from stream to stream to stream. So this is more of a little overview on some of the design work I've done for some architectural firms over the course of time, and I thought it'd be nice to kind of review that, and then maybe on Thursday switch gears again and go to something maybe more automotive, more aircraft. Just keep changing it. I think that's the one thing I never want to get caught doing one thing over and over again. I want to make sure there's a variety out there that people can take advantage of and hopefully learn some things as they go through the process with me. And I will learn some things going through the process with them. So this is done. Let's start with here. This is a site plan development for a Otterbein Monclova site, a retirement home center. And this is a handcrafted sketch with a lot of detail in the plan view, the entryway where the housing is going to be located, and then some of the softscape work around the landscape itself, then the actual gathering or the roundabout in the center of the facility. But the detail was interesting to them from their client, was wanting a little more of a detail on what this little entryway piece would look like. So we went ahead and did a little thumbnail study over here about the major curve, little hardscape patterning, and a little bit of softscape to surround that into the entryway, and then the signage, and again, a little detailed perspective about when you're coming into the actual site itself. Then a little detail of some of the planting devices on, for example, some of the foliage and trees on the site. So that was done for Monclova, and that was located up in Pemberville, Ohio. So let's kind of switch gears here. Again, a little line study. This is an interesting one. The client came to me looking for something that's kind of a restful, like a gathering place or a meeting place outdoor, and this was done for the Holzer Medical Center campus, and that was done in Athens, Ohio. A little plan view sketch of coming into the entry, the pathway itself, some of the benching and some of the softscape around it, then coming back, a little perspective study of what that might look like in perspective. You come in and enter through this archway, which is located right in through here, through the archway into these little walking areas where you can have lunch or something, gather with people on the outside. Again, just a very simple, really quick little thumbnail sketch, but again, satisfy the needs of the client. And again, what I'm really intrigued with is, again, how challenging it is to get shape right, pattern right, and some of the textural hard and softscapes, large trees, for example, in the back corner. All these elements begin to really present a real challenge in terms of putting together a melodic statement in a very solid design sense here. So that was done again at Medical Center, a restful meeting place for patients, clients, those who are ill, family to meet and so forth, and have an outdoor area to kind of gather in. And another one here. This is a little study here for the Wilford Farms, and again, another one of those overlooks. They had a very interesting lake, pond area, for example, across the way, a little detail area of seating area, an overhead canopy, which is a detail of this little thumbnail sketch here. In perspective, this is where they are. For example, they had an arboretum, something of that nature, some photo references, and some benching device to put it together, and some fencing. But just putting the concept together and just bringing a nice little softscape around this gathering place here, what it looks like in the overall plan, the pond itself, then a little bit of sky tone behind it, and again, a little detail in perspective of what the hardscape looks like, with the trellis over top, seating area, and an entryway into the actual path itself. There's a walkway into it. Really interesting stuff in terms of, notice page composition is very critical to you. Leading the eye through, it starts here into that plan view, and then overhead, the overall site expanding out and taking a look at what the process is doing. So that's another one here. This is a different approach sometimes. We're going to master planning, for example, for certain clients, Washington State Community College down in Marietta, Ohio. And sometimes they have a very interesting, it's an interesting dynamic in meetings such as this, because there's a lot of conversation taking place about what step comes when. What's the process going to look like? What do we take advantage of step 1 to 2 to 3? Yeah, it's an interesting pattern, that Chip. Thank you. So this format begins to tell people, for example, we're going to start here with the steering committee. What might be the preliminary work? What's the use of the concepts? What are we doing? What's the actual goals? In those goals, we have all these: prepare campus, research traffic, master plan, determine goals. All these elements begin to but I don't look at it from the point of view of a thinking process, but giving almost like a landscape diagram so they can relate to what that might look like when it's all said and done. Very well received, an interesting way to look at the problem-solving approach. And notice, again, I'm using soft and hardscape processing to work with. Step 1 leads you to step 2, which gets into present the revised preliminary plan, make presentations, come back and the cost estimates and all that, and then takes you right back into element number 3, which is prevent the final master plan, which takes you into the funding, course action, academic excellence, and press releases. All that begins to unfold itself. And we don't think in terms of that very often, and I think it's really unique to me anyhow to take a meeting that's all verbal and begin to visualize what it might look like from a landscape point of view, and let them see what that plan is going to look like as they go from step to step to step. Very well utilized. I kind of started the whole process of this concept years ago when making presentations to architectural firms, and it was well received. Rather than just doing listing or bullet points, they visually really makes a huge difference. So let's move on here. Little line drawing study here for Romanelli Homes. This is for the preserve, a little detail of the entryway piece itself, and move this over just a bit here. And again, a little perspective what that meant, just in line form, to give them an idea of what this entryway piece is coming in all stone with a very nice, like a slate single cap on it, and again, slate below it, and then there's an entryway gateway. Then you don't go through that, but that was just part of it. There's the symmetrical one right and one left in the actual development itself for housing development. This is done for, I believe, a housing development in Powell, Ohio, real close by here. So, and again, this is another little variation theme. Sometimes you get really interesting commentary from group dynamic. This is done for, let me move this down just a bit here so we can see the entire plate. This is a whole series of sketches that was done for an industrial complex in Louisville, Kentucky. Again, it was called Grandin. Very large commercial space where they had a lot of like a holding pattern, like a hub system for transporters and goods coming in and being shipped out across the country. But they wanted a very unique signage setup in terms of what it might look like. So this, I always start, for example, almost everything I do, especially in landscape or anything I work with, product design, transportation, very loose thumbnail sketches, just to kind of put the ideas down, put a variety of different ways of looking at signage and using materials. Do they sell marbles? Yeah, I think they do. That's a good point, Chip. So again, looking at graphics, what does it, capital G might look like, putting in the context with some signage, little wall graphics and some softscape around it, changing the shape of the form, etc. That was plate number 1. Then we will do a little bit of this would be a primary entryway into one of the service areas that the commercial system was utilized to get back into the actual site itself. Again, a little radius shape here, soft escape, and then coming out of it with a nice different pattern around the face itself into the sidewalk, and some softscape behind it to kind of soften it all off. And again, these sketches are, to me, I really can't stress enough how they're very thoughtful. Not my work, but the process behind it, very thoughtful. You have to think in terms of what the client needs, what the operation is, what their overall scope, and what they're projecting to the community. And believe me, there's a lot of conversation in communities about what's done and how it's being done. And it's a very sensitive area because you're dealing in real estate and dealing with developers and with the housing systems and people's everyday life, day-to-day activities. It's extremely sensitive. So that was the second sketch, putting that first series, little thumbnail sketches, into action. Then the last one was just getting a little bit more vertical with the thing, changing venues again, going from maybe a long stretch horizontal piece to a vertical piece. And these would all be wayfinding pieces. For example, in section 1A, you find this, 2A, so on down the line. Again, another variation on theme, elevation and a perspective, and then again, back to elevation, a little bit of a color change to see how we test the waters. Do they really like the bright greens? Do they want the oranges? It's all part of the process. You see that last sketch, just kind of drop this down a bit. There it is right there. But again, so very lucid in terms of it. I want to be very careful how I state this too, so it's not misunderstood or misconstrued. I don't waste a lot of time trying to be perfect about, oh, maybe this is going to be great. Maybe this will be great. I just go out there and just start putting together concept work and spreading it out there and giving the client a lot of options to work from. I'm not given to any, unless they're dictating what's taking place. That's a different matter. But all my experience has been in this particular discipline, all my experience has been, boy, you know, you're the guy we've hired to kind of create some things here. So create some things for us. So I open it all up and just go through a whole variety of techniques and approaches to find out what the magic is. And once it settles in, we kind of go from we expand it, then contract it, and expand it, and contract it until we get a resolution. And we go to the final manufacturing individuals and people who fabricate the signage and the like and work with them to get it all put together. So there's another one. There's another little variation back to that same plate again, getting much more of the graphics in terms of just a ballpoint pen series. Nothing fancy, just really rapid sketches. This now becomes, even though it's architectural piece, this is for a group up in of all places, Calgary, Alberta. They came to me looking for, there's a whole new industrial complex, a very large site they were putting together, but they had no concept about maybe entryway pieces, how to begin to come into the site itself, ponding, some softscape. The buildings themselves were a little bit vaporous, so they want some definition in those buildings and putting it all in context. So this little thumbnail sketch put all the pieces together. This is only one aspect of the site itself, but it's one of the flavors in terms of putting together what the avenue might look like when you come into the site and how you break into these different retail and distribution areas within the site. So let me move along here. So let's sketch one. There's another little view from the other side looking at some of the other complexes. One of the major entryways, notice again, little signage system here, signing going in, some banner work, some boulevard, and again into some softscape. Then the building, this is more of a retail area here. And notice, I really think this is really kind of cool. What they had involved in this whole thing was a Ferrari dealership. Right there in the corner, so everybody got to see it. First thing coming in, big old Ferrari dealership. So again, these line drawings to me sell an awful lot of the story, because if you're working with a new client, oftentimes a lot of color and a lot of over excessiveness begins to destroy the concept. So if you keep it clean and simple, go to line studies first, and then begin to educate them and bring them forward into what the process is, you can kind of open season with it here. So that was again, there's another little view, kind of closing in on more of the commercial side. Again, notice landscaping, a little bit of an entryway piece here, a little bit of sculpture to tell you that you're moving in an enterprise zone. And again, some of the building architecture, again, real fast and taking all the way fade in the back of the this is a very large area. So these sketches serve that purpose in terms of, let me move that up just a bit, there it is, serve that purpose of getting an idea, letting them see how much. Hey, how you doing there, Doc? How are you, Doug? Good to see you, man. I'm just going through some, I hope you're doing well, Doug. Thanks for joining me here. I'm just going through a little scenario of landscape architecture and just some of the work I've done over the past 2 years or so with a lot of firms. I'm still working actively in the area, and I'll let you know what's taking place at the end of the stream today. Some neat stuff coming up. But this is a real fast little freehand sketch rendering process of, again, this large site in Calgary, Alberta. And it was called the Enterprise Zone, and a lot of massive area, but they did not have any clue about what they want to do as far as what the appearance was, how to enter it, how to softscape it, what the landscape would look like. So I was brought in to kind of be the design guy in the process. This is done for Romanelli Homes. Again, this is a primary for it's a swimming pool. Behind this was a pool complex. Just an entryway coming with some fencing, some stone, and a grand entranceway into this little residential commercial piece that he's doing. Interesting stuff that, again, switching gears. Notice each sketch that I go through. One of the things I've really got a bad habit over, I don't fall in love with any given technique. Sometimes it's marker, sometimes it's pastel, pencil, ballpoint pen, tone paper. I change all the time to keep things fresh, hopefully. But again, this is another little ballpoint red pen study of just looking at the major entryway. And again, this is a very large residential area that he was doing down in, now that's an entrance. Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it? Pretty grand there, Chip. So again, very fast sketch. Just get the perspective right. But again, notice again the balance of hardscape to softscape, and again, hardscape to softscape. Just changing the tempo, which to me is a very important part of the sketch or the rendering process. It should not be static. It should be very fluid. And again, especially landscape architecture, which is extremely powerful. I mean, I love the discipline. It's just fun to work with because, again, it opens up the whole vocabulary of textures, how to work with them, how to place them in sequence. And the materials technology is phenomenal. Some of the stuff they're doing now is absolutely amazing. So this sketch one, so we'll write down a line here. This is back, is almost this, I think this goes back to that same, no, this is for Village of Powell Commons, not Powell here in Ohio. This is Powell, I think, in Florida. some interesting, this old plan view sketch here. Let's kind of separate this. This guy is a separate addendum. This is a plan view look of that area coming in the roadway here, and then all the residential areas here. A little bit of perspective and coming into a large gathering place, an oval here in the center of the town. This takes this one. Doug, you have towering skills. Hope you don't get. Me too, Doug. That doesn't sound good at all. But notice this is an overview of the plan. Then I'm just switching gears. This is kind of this area here reflects what's happening right here. Takes you into the area, into that little center part of town, this gathering space, and then into some of the retail areas around this thing. And again, just a little bit capture the building body side and then bring you out of it. Again, the whole idea here, again, since it's a new client, they're really kind of interested in bring them in and slowly let them see, just in lucid sketch form, how they see certain things and what could be done on this site. And nothing was dictated to me in this case. It was all, what do you think in terms of, here are the drawings, here are the architectural elevations and plan view studies. What does it look like in perspective? So that's the real key for us. We're the ones who can put this into a sort of a dream message and guide them into perspective. So again, pencil study. This was done very quickly. Just a little aspect of an Italian villa. One of the little residential pieces for another housing development we're working with. That wasn't so much a typical row house. It was much more of a, this is done for a custom builder. Done very interesting in terms of, he wanted more of a Tuscany look, almost like a very vaporous. I think this is down in Tennessee, but picking up the old Italian farmstead and almost Tuscany flavor to it, and just put the old shrubbery and low walls and the old terracotta stained wall system, and again the very tile roof. So this is like an offshoot study for this individual, this developer down in Tennessee. So we switch along here. This is done here locally. I think this is done out in Springfield, Ohio. They came to me looking for, they had a retail space done and zoned for development, but again they had a variety of shops, and they wanted to sell it to their client base in terms of to get contract work to fill this this mall out. So I put together this little thumbnail sketch on just a real grand overview about what these pieces. This would be this large glass atrium area here. It was like a promenade that went through the entire piece, and these little pieces, these little retail areas around it with canopies, softscape, and again, notice the balance of softscape, hardscape, and putting flavor into this very hopefully intriguing little venue for this developer. And they built this, by the way. It was very successful. It's extremely busy, and that's good news. So let's kind of roll on here. This has done some graphic design work for Spencer Golf Concepts. It came to me, a golf course manufacturer or a developer. At a site, and wanted to go in and look at how to treat this thing. We wanted a very round, robust kind of concept work here. So I put together the site plan, a little bit of graphics, and a little bit of a sneak preview of what one of the building complexes might look like. A little overview here, and the thumbnail sketch. So it was sketch one, and we opened up a little bit more and showed them what that might look like in terms of what the overall concept of the actual clubhouse itself. Here's another view of the clubhouse from another perspective. Again, just simple line work, little details here, and some block studies about how the whole format's going to work, and a little bit of a detailed interior with a big, huge fireplace, all glass and atrium. You know, just a little combination of things to kind of whet the developer's appetite for this new course. And I think we've got the finished piece here along with it, I'm sure. Nope. That'll come later. This is a little concept sketch done for the, of all places, a municipal building. Oh, pardon me, let's get this guy locked up here. This was done for the municipal building in Huntington, West Virginia. They came to me. They wanted to put a sky bridge in. They wanted to face up the current building. All this clad forming is all new in terms of putting together this building. This building. Again, notice it's, even though it's not quite landscape, it's an architectural landscape piece because they wanted to do some things out front with some flower bedding, some tile work, new nissums here, and again, a very strong boulevard presence inside the actual shape itself, or the actual development itself. So that's that guy. Going back to a little line study here. This is for a market study. This was done in Middlebury, Ohio. Again, a guy came to me and said, I've got the land, I've got the whole idea, I've got the drawings done, but the architect can't show me what it looks like. Can you show me a little view here of what this stuff is doing? And so, yeah, we're ahead, put it all together. That perspective construction lines from Doug. No, I did not. Doug, that's all freehand. Sad to say, that's all freehand. My mistake here. If you've seen any flaws in there, let me know, because I'm sure there's 100 of them. So anyway, no, that's all freehand, Doug. And I just started again with a basic horizon line, and I just kind of plot through it and just sketch through the idea and get it all done. Again, he very well received. He finally could see that his store here, obviously Dave's Supermarket. Again, he had some other out parcel pieces, a little clock tower, and some other retail things he wanted to plan and sell out to some of the prospective clients that he wanted to work with. So again, very quick, I mean, what I do, and I hope I'm not being forward here, when something comes to me with a job or a program, I mean, I waste no time. I get right on it with some really fast, quick concept sketches, because I realize for them, the developers and the individuals, the architectural firms, and so forth, it's far from perfect, Doug, thank you, but it's just an idea of getting it down. But the reason I go this route initially, and all that I do, whether it's product, aircraft, transportation design, or this particular overview today, I take this approach in very, very simple line studies first, doing very quick sketches from their information, so they can see quickly what this doesn't look like, and it opens up a lot of conversation. Gee, could you change this tower to more of a peak? Can that upper be on this? Opens up a dialogue, and I think that's the thing that's nice about this whole process. The danger of going the other way is it becomes so color saturated, so finished, so to speak, it becomes fatal. There's no invitation to work with. There's nothing that engages conversation with your client base. So again, very careful for me. You might change the venue, that's fine, but I'm a big fan of being very, very focused in on this is your vision. And let's look at it from line study first. What do you like as far as colors? What character are you after? Are you after more of an Italian and looking Renaissance? Is it Old Town Rockwell? Is it Norman Rockwell? Is it New Yorkish? What are they looking for? So that's part of the whole process. This was fun. A big overview up on the lake, up in Lake Erie. A whole new boating system coming in, new lighthouse, and a whole new development, a retail space up on the lake. This is all part of, let me get this over there. There you are. This is all just, again, same thing. New client up in Hudson and in that area, looking for example, what do I do with this very meandering roadway? I want to put a development back in through here. I want a whole new walkway and a causeway into a viewing space, this little round area here. And then some of the boating boats, and a new lighthouse, a new walkway to it. Again, starting out the process. Here's the overview. What do you think? What should we change? What do you like and dislike? And again, engaging in conversation. So that's that guy. This is a fun project. This goes back to Wheeling, West Virginia. They came to me and said, well, you know, we've got a town center. Let me just move this up a bit. Let's see if we get this. We've got a town center here, and we want to do something in the walkway, in the business district, that takes it away from just being benches and so forth. Might be a promenade or an arcade of some sort. So I said, well, let's take a look at maybe doing a covered canopy here where you can have summer festivals or groups coming in and doing certain things like sales and the like, or Boy Scouts. And just, again, a little elevated stepping area up into a big platform with a very large, in this case, maybe just a transparent canopy that they can go through and see. Let's see if we can see the rest of that sketch. Let's try to get this out of the way. Pardon me. Just a transparent canopy where people can come in and work through it. Here's a little elevation study what it might look like. Oh, pardon me, it's off the screen here. A little elevation study what that might look like down below. So you're coming in with some flag bearing work and very simple stretch canopy over a superstructure of metal and aluminum tubing and so forth. And there it is. So it's weatherproof and it can work with it. So it's, again, downtown Huntington. There's another little view of it. Same process, changing just a little bit of it. And coming back in again with that guy. And this is almost the same location. This is for, of all places, West Virginia University. They were looking at a whole new transit system maybe coming into campus. So they wanted me to look at, how do I set up a hub? What do I do, for example? Here's some major buildings that are going to be facing the actual hub itself. Here's a bridge or a causeway over the top of this very elaborate looking rail system that takes you around campus. So you come in through here. You come to the rail station, and notice you come out of here, this whole trackway, for example, into a roundabout, into a track system here, back into the bridge down below, and again, all the way in the back, just a whole series of train systems or tram systems to take you from one portion of campus to another. But again, this was the only thing they gave me here was the overall in the plan view, that shape. What else went inside that? It was all just conceptual. It's horrible to admit this, but that was just all me just going nuts with creating certain shapes and forms to give. And he wanted something very fluid, something very continuous loop. For example, come back out here and come back in again. But it solved the problem. It again opened up a lot of dialogue. It was just a lot of fun. And this was part of a major administration building that faced that whole. Notice the section tells us that comes downhill into a valley and then back uphill again. Then these little trestles tell you what's going on here. So just a really interesting sketch here. Not this sketch, but interesting process to solve the problem. Let me stop there for a moment. Just making sense, gang? Coming along okay? Am I going too quickly, or is this helping to see what the overall format is here? And I think the reason for the presentation today is, again, in landscape architecture, very sensitive in terms of working with a lot of dynamic systems. For example, materials technology, softscape, hardscape, and building systems, and how to develop newness using cortans and materials and metals, et cetera, et cetera. So, anybody so far so good? Any commentary? You want to go there now? Yeah, it's an interest. Yeah, they're in the process. Last I'd heard, this was about 2 years ago. They're in the process of developing the land now, so this might come to pass here in the next year or two. Notice one thing I failed to mention. Notice the reverse terminal here, facing north and then facing south. Just come back in. It's like a roundabout turnaround hub to get the trails, to rotate the trains and back out again. Did you use layers to build that up? No, I did not, Doug. That's all freehand sketch. Again, just all freehand. It's just old age coming into practice here, Doug. That's all that is. So anyhow, layers in terms of, yeah, this is all one sketch. It's a very light pencil first. I came back and just started to bring up the values and let it go with that. So here we go on to the next one. This is a headquarters study for Anderson's Market up in Toledo. They came to us looking for a whole new venue as far as what they wanted to do with it. There's no new location they had going for up in Harbortown on the north end of the state. So a little elevation, a little perspective study here, and a little more detail, and some of the features around the actual facility itself for Anderson's. And again, they built it. And so what I understand is that now they've gone up, they've moved away from the food service, but they still do farm implementation and farming materials. So this is what this is for here. Did you use a straight edge? No, I do not use a straight edge, Doug. I did not use a straight edge. Sorry. No edges, no nothing. I mean, it's all freehand, Doug. You know full well, you and I have practiced this for years, and it just comes up, and away it goes. So, I did not use layers, and I did not use a straight edge. It's all freehand sketches. I mean, I'm just very fortunate to practice a lot. A lot of mistakes in here, but nonetheless, a good big overview of what this thing is going to look like. Ridgestone's Anderson's Market up in Harbortown and in the north of the state. So that's that guy. This is an interesting thing. Bill Mitch, who was the director of wetland studies at Ohio State University, came to me and said, I've got this wetland research park I want to do, and I'd like to something to illustrate this thing. So I had, he gave me the actual site plan, and I put it in perspective. Here's the actual wetlands area here, and some of the ponding around it, some of the ponding around the river here. You know, a new building was being built that would look like this in the facility itself, and some little overlook areas like these little towers to look into the wetlands area here. Some of the locations along the way. There's a location of the building on the site itself, and you come in and walk into this whole thing. And go, these little areas here are all walkthroughs in terms of going from one place to another. And there's a little shed area here for again, like a resting place or a benching place for observation purposes. But to my surprise, when I finished the sketch for Bill, he went ahead and took the actual illustration. This is a copy of the actual finished sketch. The actual finished sketch of this place is about maybe 36 by 3 by 5 feet. He took that image to a printer and developed a large, almost 12 by 8 by 12 canvas print and hung it outside the facility. When you walked in, that's the first thing you saw driving up to the facility itself, this big, huge, large sketch that I did for him. So I was very honored by that. Very difficult, complicated thing to do, but again, fun stuff. Again, notice the change. It drifts from complicated things such as this, and then into actual hardscape and building structures, and then into details like fencing and all the other elements that go into landscape architecture itself. So there we are. That's that guy. And we come down the line. There's a little study here in Meggett, South Carolina, a little retail or a distribution building. Again, another very simple line drawing study. Putting some little bit of color into it, kind of let the client know this is what that building might look like. Again, he had a welcome center over here and a facility over here. Again, not knowing what it would look like. And this is one of the things I would stop here and pause and just kind of make sure we really reinforce here in this presentation today. They really, 99% of the time, let me just stop. 99% of the time, developers and individuals and architects have the plans done, but they can't visualize it graphically or in a third dimension. So this is where we come in and become a huge asset to these people who, and I'm not being critical here, they have no idea what this thing looks like. And when you put it in context like this, all of a sudden the salesmanship, and they use this as marketing tools, and we become the asset in terms of helping them develop their concept. So again, when I make those comments about they did not know what they wanted to do, I'm not being facetious nor being sarcastic. It's just that they don't have the capabilities that we have to kind of visualize what these things do and give them the image of, oh, that's a neat, can we make changes here? Is this all clad form? Can that go to metal? Can it be wood? Can it be stucco? Those things will change enormously because of the concept sketch and the drawings that you provide for these people to kind of develop the concept. So let's move along here. This is a little detail of that. Let's go back to the sketch here. This sketch was a detail of this building right back here. A little bit of a change of venue. This was this welcome center. Went from what we had there to much more of like a very lazy Louisiana mansion kind of old structure, for example. You wanted more of that kind of a look in that welcome area. So that's a part of that same concept work that we did here for Megget, South Carolina. And again, it was for the dining facility at Simon's Bluff is what the name it was. It was an enterprise area, the distribution area that he was developing in the Carolinas. There's another little study here. This is just done, I think this is part of that hospital system we were working with earlier. Another variation in theme about putting together the line drawing and like an atrium area for gathering, seating areas, and et cetera. Outdoor area for dining, meeting, and working with patients and so forth to give a feeling of comfort. And another, other than being inside a drab hospital room and discussing certain things that they're going through. Again, that's another emotional side of this whole landscape piece. Some of the things I work with, I mean, they just touch your heart. My goodness, I mean, people are just looking for ways to kind of express themselves within architecture and landscape architecture, give more of a peaceful content that people are going through some very difficult times physically. This is part of that same hospital project that we showed you earlier. So move along here. There's a little bit of a vertical format. Let's see if I can get all this in here. Just a little, maybe some. Let's see bit by bit. This is done for Episcopal Church retirement area. They came to me and said, well, we've got a complex here that looks like this. This is all, that handed me a line drawing. I started filling all the blanks with some of the foliage in and putting all the pieces together, the site, the long-term care, entry experience, community wellness area, neighborhoods, what are they going to look like, ponds and mounding, open space, and signage. So all those pieces were part of this whole process. So I started with some of the open, like the ponding, like a little bit of a welcome area here with the tower, a little bit of a bridge system and a walkway through it. This is, again, same thing, a little bit of bridge over the top of that. Then we move along here, and there's a couple more details of this thing, what it might look like, another entryway piece, what it might look like when you come into the site, this little piece here. And again, a little detail, notice with this guy coming right back in. And really moving over the top of this little archway piece, it looks like this. So that would happen right in the primary area, right in through here we enter the actual site itself. So again, a little bit of a different page format to give more of an impact than some of the sketches that were done to utilize within the site itself. So that was that piece. Let's go back to normal here. Let's rotate these out. These are some little entryway sketches, for example, wayfinding pieces and bridges for, I think it was a Romanelli Hughes development over the Dayton area. Again, entryways here. There's a little bit of a water feature and a walking bridge that you can kind of go from one side to the other. This is what that little piece looked like when you go in plan view, first elevation, and a little bit of perspective. So that's sketch number one. Just got to kind of go through these guys a bit here. This is an interesting part of the same development for the Romanelli Hughes area here. We've got a mail drop box area. Instead of just having all the mailboxes all lined up on the street side, you wanted a nice little welcoming area where you can actually come in with benches and sit down and look at, and again, softscape and hardscape areas, where you have this little covered canopy piece where all the mailbox areas are located within the site. It's again, notice that the variety of detail, for example, and getting the textures right. Hardscape, walls, softscape, hard against soft. I mean, that whole balance of power and putting pieces together. So I'm going to stop here for a second and just get your feedback here, gang. What do you think? Is this helping you see how the whole thing becomes explosive and how expansive the whole discipline of landscape architecture is? I mean, to me, it's one of the most intriguing things to work with because it's so unique. It forces you, for me anyhow, self confession, force you to think in terms of a different venue altogether. It's again a different balance of, it's not all mechanical, it's not all automotive, it's very delicate, and you're dealing with people who have a really good strength about what they want to have established. And if you're out of order with that, boy, it could get really touchy in an instant. So there we go. I'm going to give down here another little detail, same process, what it might look like, another little cupola area for the actual piece. Notice there's a roadway back here. And walkway coming around this thing into it and back out of it again. Again, mail station with a little bit of a covered canopy. It's very deep field architecture. Yeah, it is, Chip. It really is. extremely deep field and becomes so expansive in a hurry. Let me move these out of the way here, guys. I'll get organized here for a moment. Pardon me. That's a great point, Chip, because it is very expansive and very deep in terms of just really interesting how the whole process comes together and how really delicate it is to guide people who are not aware of our discipline through the process of making things work. And then again, Doug, this is wonderful. Oh, thank you, Doug. It's just fun to work with. As you all know, the drawing process and rendering and the creative process is exciting. And I think what I want to get across in my work for landscape architects, I put the same amount of energy and interest and character into as I do for my automotive work. It's all the same for me. Nothing changes. This is a greater set of disciplines because it's so unique and it's so diverse. It's expansive, as they all are. But something about landscape architecture really intrigues me. So here we go. I'm going to move along here, kind of not to bore you to death. Here's a little black and white line drawing of the primary entry area, which is right in through here. Let's see, where are we here? With primary at Little Walnut Creek, for example, and I think that was again down in Kentucky. I'm not sure. Yeah, no, it's Walnut Creek, Kentucky. They had a site. They had a lot of content. They wanted a very, very neat amphitheater. Which here's the elevation. Here's the entryway area here. You come in this elevation of this amphitheater. Here's a little clamshell here. And again, here's in perspective, and then a little outbuilding there for visitors. Same thing here. You come in, it's a concession area, and again, a lot of children's play area here, and then come back and walk through it down to the amphitheater, and away you go. So that was again, let me get this organized. There it is. Real bold, kind of a powerful black and white sketch. Putting a lot more drama into it that maybe overdid it with some of the sky. It's not a tornado, it's just a very, trying to get the dark against light to work here. So there we are. Let's go back down here. Next step. No, there it is. Let's do this. There it is in black and white, and here it is in transfer in the color. Changed it a little bit, so using the same footprint, but drawing it in terms of color, so they can see where the pond is and what the elevation looks like, and what else happening with the materials, and some of the contours around it. Notice a lot of fun too to kind of make contour work. You kind of put sections into it, just contour it out, and kind of create the round of the domeness of that land as it changes contour from the backside of the property into the entryway area here. This is for a Emerson retail mall. Again, I think this was in Cincinnati, that area. Down that, I think it was was it Cincinnati or what's the one that's just north of that, the township or the city there? Oh my goodness, what the zoom lamp is. I'm drawing a blank here, but nonetheless, this is some initial. They want a very bold star type signage piece to go into this mall area here. So a little black and white line drawing, and again a little bit of a change of pace. That same star system into maybe a block granite piece. This could be almost like a crystalline piece of plexiglass with a little signage tab to it, and again soft hardscape around it to detail it. That's what a little detail here. Then we took that piece and put in a little bit of, again, really exciting. When the client saw that, I said, well, it's nice, but we need to see it from the freeway. Oh, okay. So all of a sudden, it just changed the entire character of getting that same theme, but extending it. And they also wanted to add more signage and more retail areas as to who's going to be in the site itself. So there's the final piece. Again, notice a lot more taper in the land, much taller, same basic overall detail with some plexi work and so forth. And again, all these signage pieces hanging, those are the retail areas inside the site itself. And this is a little detail here, what it might look like on a plan view. This is all, that portion there is that little wedge of that face of the actual signage itself. This ended up being about maybe 36 to 40 feet tall. And again, notice, very grounded with a lot of softscape around it to give it a little more character and some personality. Let me bring this back into the film plane here. There we are. How's that? So there we go, and let's move along here. Another little study. This is again for Glacier Parkway. Glacier facilities up in, again, what was that, Toledo area. They came in and they've got this farm system, like a gathering place for like a local weekend getaway, for example, getting into barn systems and some gift shops, entryway into the place itself. And it was a part of the Glacier Development Complex, which is a very large housing area up in the Toledo area. But they wanted more of a farm-like, almost Germanic look to it. And again, notice all the different textures and so forth, into bricks, into sidewalking, and a lot of foliage, a little pond, and kind of give you a little bit of reflection around the actual, this is a gift shop and restaurant. This is more of it could be a hotel, I think, there. And primary entranceway into the hotel. Again, very simple set of sketches, but again, a little bit of color study here. This is done again. This is an overall site plan study here for Romanelli Hughes. Looking at, let's see, what was this? Is Catola Tract, which is again just north of Powell. I think it was much more in the Delaware area. Union County, Jerome Township. Again, little thumbnail sketches. Oh, let me get this back in screen here. Notice, let me start right here. Little thumbnail sketches about what it might look like, for example, for an observation deck by the pondings, an elevation study. Little signage area with the banner signs and so forth. It's a stone. Again, what that might look like with that little signage on a mounted area. To kind of give the site some personality. This is the overview. All of these sketches are happening down and through here at the entryway. And again, and some roundabouts here. This is all done just to show where the houses are and what that complex might look like when it's all put together. This has been built, and it's kind of fun to go through that and see your sketches become a reality. And neat stuff. So there's another little detail. This was done again for this is a different housing development, and down I think in Louisville, close to Bowling Green, Kentucky, a new housing development. They wanted some very round silo-like signage, very long upgrading hill up into the actual development, which is back in this area here. Again, a wall system was kind of graded as you go up here, little pockets for some trees, and a primary entryway with a signage on it. This is the actual elevation of what that piece might look like, and as you go up the hill, that's what happens when you go into the development itself. So that's, again, real fast little, this is all pastel marker and fine line pen. So there we are, that's that. And there's another little detail of it, a little bolder, a little change of pace. If you go back there, notice, change a little bit here. Signage a little bit of difference. It kind of came out, wrapped around, extended the fence a little bit. And the actual stone wall, put a lamping on the end of it here. And again, basically the same thing here. But again, that little change of pace was signage, silo, and again, a nice big lantern to kind of bring into the site itself. So this was done for the University of Miami here in Ohio. They were looking at a brand new entryway into campus. As you come down 23 into that area on the highway, there's a very little excitement in terms of the roadway comes in and you branch off to go into Virginia, pardon, not West Virginia, but into West Virginia and so forth, into a different part of the state itself. It's interesting. They wanted a roundabout. They wanted a lot of columns and some fencing, but they wanted a bridge system on the top of the river, which is right in through here. With some lookouts. So again, notice columns and some observation towers, and then went back into campus. This is what it looked like in elevation. The actual bridgeway itself, that's what the bridge looked like in elevation. There's the actual river down here, the base, and just coming back through and putting this into perspective. So that was one theme. Then we went a little bit of color. That's what it might look like, and that was a line drawing, and there it is in full color. So again, coming back in again, notice this little roundabout, this walking path came through and around into the river, the entryway into the piece itself, and again, that very strong, bold bridge type system with a whole new pattern of columns and pillars to kind of take you into the campus at the University of Miami in Oxford. So there we are. There's another little detail here of it. The main event, enter at the carriage place, for example, might be part of the whole process too. Notice tower area. Entryway in, a little elevation, and back in through here, a little bit of gathering space with the three towers to kind of give you an overview of what that form is going to look like here. So again, let me take a moment here. Any feedback here, guys? I mean, I don't want to hog all the conversation here. And notice the shape that the entryway in, around this form, back into the actual site itself, a roundabout back here, then back into development. Anybody, any comments at all, yays and nays? I hope I'm not going too quickly here. I'm just trying to go through this process to show you the range of things we deal with in landscape architecture. It's absolutely phenomenal to me. I mean, I'm learning all the time about it. I'm never bored by it. It's an honor to work with these developers because they do some great stuff land-wise. But they have, again, not just, it's not just the statement of working with architecture, and I'm again very clear about this comment I made earlier. I'm not saying that they don't know what they're after. They can't visualize it, and I think that's where we come in as an asset to them to kind of guide them through. It's tremendous. Yeah, just really interesting stuff. Yeah, thank you, Demetrius. A lot of variety. That's right. I mean, I think it all begins to apply too. No matter what your discipline is, the more variety you get into, the more your exposure is seeing things and exploring certain areas, the more powerful your presentation skills are. I'm still learning that. I know you are as well. What do you think, Doug? You in the same camp if you're still with us? But the more expansive you become, the more you take chances, the more you kind of move out and begin to take chances in terms of variety. 1 minute it's hardscape, then it's product, then it's architecture, then it's change product design, then it goes back to aircraft. I mean, it's amazing. All those things become learning tools and springboards to kind of get stronger and better as you go. So again, another entryway study, more of a gateway here than as an entryway. So some very, very strong, solid piece to get it to work. Let's go down the line there. Another little variation here. This is Ravenwood. This is just a little parking area here out in like a skateboard park that was involved in it. But it was a facility area that they wanted to kind of put some recreation in, for example. And like again, a gathering place, a little bit of an area here for maybe some concerts and the like, and some gathering for picnics and so forth. Parking area back in through here, and again, a little walkway out of this little resting area here on the lake itself. Then it comes right back in again through it. Doug, it's amazing where design career. Yeah, you're right, Doug. It's amazing where design career can go. And I think you know as well as I do, Doug, that the more you try to predict it, the more tragic it becomes. You can't predict it. You just do good work for good people and hope that all comes together, and it'll take you places I would have never done in my entire life, coming out of CCS and going to GM design staff and designing automobiles. Would I ever thought back then I'd be doing landscape architecture? Not at all. But thank God for the training years, for example, in school. Guys like Gassi and Sid Mead, they were not really car guys. They were creative individuals that taught us how to go through the spectrum and begin to service our clients very well. So again, a little recreation spot area here for Ravenwood, Ohio. And we'll wrap it up with this guy. This almost goes back to, let me just bring this one sketch up here. I think, yeah, this goes back to this last study here. Let me find it. Yeah, this is interesting. This was I should have started here first. I'm sorry. It's a little sneak preview once again. This was a site done for the Carriages. Again, Carriages was here in the, I think just north of Columbus. I think it was somewhere close to, just south of Cleveland, an area there. Notice again, putting a visual board together. And these little studies here, I hope you can see them. These little studies were actually, the developer had already opened up and commissioned the roadway pattern to look like this. It was almost like a fish in terms of almost human being vertical standing. This is a plan view look at it here. And notice inside that, I went ahead and put together a variety of different textures and breakouts for that entryway area here. This was another part of that same thing. Roundabout, major entryway, split out to go to the west, going to the east, and all of a sudden, look what begins to happen. Again, same process of getting, and then a little detail here, what that might look like. Here's the actual entryway here and here, which is right in through here, and then again, that whole area right there is what we kind of focused in on, and that all took place, for example, in the primary area, which is right in through here. This is where it all happened, right there. That was all started the whole process. So, from that series of studies, we went to this. This is what it looked like in terms of what I just talked about. That's what that site, all of that was trapped outside of that. This is just the entry area, it's just not shown in the site itself. So that basically wraps it all up here for today, guys. I really appreciate your patience with me here today. There's a lot of information and a lot of things done, but let me just kind of put these back in the stack order. I'll let them go there for a minute. Anybody, I'm just kind of bring these up to speed here, and we'll just kind of put them back in order. And we'll bring these guys in here, and we'll get them back in file. So, but I think, again, one of the most important things for me in putting this whole process together on Twitch is, again, to never get caught doing the same thing twice. I mean, I'll maybe I'll do some automotive stuff, maybe 1 or 2 times, and go through phases and like, but I'm always more interested in getting a lot of difference in terms of subject matter, and I hope this has been a big departure and a big help for you today to see what happens when you go through the process of changing gears and going from one system to another. Now maybe on Thursday, I'm hoping that if all goes well, I'm doing some attack fighters for Star Citizen, doing some bombing systems, and really looking at new ways of looking at plan views and stealth technology. So I mean, there'll be more of a sketch rendering demonstration on Thursday if I get my schedule to work here for me. I'm not quite sure if Thursday is going to be active because of programs or some schedules I have meetings I have to take care of. But that's the plan for now. But again, to those of you tuned in today, Chip, Doug, and Demetrius and others, for example, on board, I really want to thank you for taking the time to go through this today. And again, it was a real delight to go through this whole process of landscape architectural work. It's intriguing, it's very compelling, and again, it challenges me all the time. And I'm always learning things, and I think the thing I'm learning the most is to keep learning and never stop. And I think, Doug, I appreciate that last comment from you about the amazing where a design career can go. And I think if you have the right tools, for example, the thinking process, the sketch rendering drawing skills, the ability to communicate ideas, no matter how rough they are. It's expansive, and it begins to just it multiplies itself, and it's intriguing. So all that to say, gang, so cool. And anybody in closing commentary here, likes, dislikes? Should I do more of this kind of work? I will. I'll make this announcement. I think I will be doing more of this work, because I think in the last few days I got a call from a good friend of mine who's looking at doing developing a site he might need some help on. And I asked him, for example, if I join him and he contracts me to do the work, can I use that on my Twitch program? So absolutely. So I'll be able to do some hands-on sketch rendering stuff, as you'll see, for this client. Hopefully the next week or two. I don't know when it's going to take place, but that's part of the operation of the stature to get this thing done for us. So that'll be coming on here, hopefully. And I'm going to make it a real habit to kind of change up as much as I can, from landscape to product to architecture, to transportation, back to aircraft, and it may be just instructional things like presses like button. I will press the like button, indeed. And I think the thing that I want to do too, I think what I've not done for a while, and maybe I need your help on this one, guys. I thought about going back to some basic fundamental stuff, like getting some fundamental perspective, how to utilize that. I don't want to be so trite with it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about using perspective as a creative tool. Would you consider a live interaction with a client and see what? Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do that. I'd love to do a live interaction, Demetrius. If you have any in mind, be interested in doing that, I'd love to join forces with you on that process. But the reason I brought that up too is for this reason. I think it was last week I got a note from a young talent in a design talent in Japan, and she asked me a question. It came through the actual Twitch site here. She asked me a question about, do you ever start doing an automobile, teaching it from the ground on up? And I have not done that in a long time. And I said, maybe I should start doing that. So you think that might be something we could look at too? More instructional thing about getting proportion right, how to build a body form, how to move it into perspective, what it takes to do for like a 1, 2, or 3 box system. And all those things I'm thinking about. I mean, there's so much to do. I don't want to be found boring to you guys. I don't want to get to the place where, oh, here we go again. I want to change it up all the time, and I just don't want to get in the habit of saying things like, let's do this, we're going to do a car, we're going to do a car. That doesn't intrigue me. It's great to do that, but it doesn't intrigue me. I want variety, and I'm sure you do as well. So anybody else, that's a good point, Demetrius. If you have someone who's interested in looking at that and becoming interactive, I would love to join forces with you on something like that. And then Doug and also Chip, be cool. Again, anybody else, any commentary in closing here? Believe me, I really, really respect your feedback, because you're the people that really make this thing click. I'm just a facilitator. You guys are the actual people that I really respect, and I'm grateful for you being on board today. Anybody? How about you, Doug? Are you doing well, health-wise? And let me say this while I'm waiting for a response, hopefully, from you, Doug. Your son, Landon, what a joy to work with. I mean, that whole time down there, for example, with that group, with him, was an absolute joy. Joy unspeakable. Really great stuff. He does a great job down there. I think he's got a great career in front of him. And I'm really happy for him, Doug, no question. So if there's nobody coming in here with any commentary work at all, let me just make a couple of announcements here. As I said, I hope I can go live here on Thursday. I'm waiting for some information, what is taking place, for maybe some appointments I have to take care of. Yeah, that's great. Good news for you. And thanks very much, Chip. I'm glad it's all good on your end and you're not getting into any trouble in the meeting you're in. Doug, thanks for your response. I'm so pleased you're doing much better. Demetrius, I can't thank you enough for joining me here today. Pass the word along, gang. And please, if you know of anybody that's interested in drawing skills or wanting to learn some things about the drawing aspect, please direct them to my website, drcontrast.com. There are 9 drawing sessions there, different facets of from perspective all the way through the geometric solids and some sketch rendering skills in that drawing program. And also drop me a note at jim@drcontrast.com. That's my email. So drop me a note if you've got things that you'd like to have me look at, or maybe put on the subject line to go through my Twitch processor. I'd love to have that as well. And I always do this near the end of it because I think it's the most important part of the whole process. And I'm grateful for the fact that you folks are here with me. Enormous respect for you, and I hope I'm helping you as much as you're helping me. And I've always said this, and I will always believe it and believe it with all my heart, and that is, always remember to never forget to dare to be great, because you are. Thanks very much, gang. Look forward to seeing you on Thursday. And if I'm delayed in any way, shape, or form, I'll put a note on my Discord to make sure we kind of catch things up. But so far, I think we're going to be good for Thursday. So take care of yourself, all the very best, and dare to be great. Thank you. Bye-bye now.